Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of This is Leadership, your intersection between growth and leadership. And today in this episode, I wanted to get into leveling up. You know, as a leader, leveling up to me is probably the number one on the list of things that I need to do for myself, knowing that if I don't have anything to in my own leadership receptacle to be able to add and give to others, while I'm not able to accompany them and develop their leadership and help them grow as people, as a person and as a professional. So leveling up is something really important, and I really wanted to talk about it in this episode. And I reached out to somebody that's just fantastic that I've known for many years through social media, and actually I've participated in a lot of the great workshops that he has provided. And I was also able to be part of a mastermind group, which we will get into a little bit later on. So listen, I'd like to welcome Danny Sunshine Bauer, the Chief Ruckus Maker of Better Leaders, Better Schools. Danny, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Joel. This is a fantastic opportunity, and it's always lovely to reconnect with you.
Absolutely. And, knowing you're a busy guy, you've got a challenge that's starting today, which is fantastic as well, the 5-day boot camp. And I'm sure you're excited about that. And I'm sure that the people that have signed up are excited as well. So listen, Danny, when we talk about leveling up, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this is the work that I do within leadership development with school principals in my district in particular, and at large as well with my consulting company. We'll do a lot of things. We'll put out trainings, we'll put out podcasts, we'll connect on social media. Mm-hmm. But I think we all know that most of the people that are here, most of the people that are already listening to the podcast, most of the people that are already connecting on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and are getting that professional development are the ones that are already convinced and know the importance of leveling up. And the question that I've always asked myself is, how can we reach out and how can we get to those people that aren't there? I work with a lot of school principals that don't realize yet, the importance of leveling up, the importance of growing and being intentional in growing. So, for the people that are listening today, which are here, and I'm sure that they understand the importance of leveling up and getting better and to keep growing. What can we tell them? What can we do to be able to reach the ones that aren't here today listening to us?
So my answer, Joel, might surprise you. Okay. One of my mentors and the hero for sure in my life, Seth Godin, he's influenced me in so many remarkable ways. And as you start out in business, right? Like Better Leaders, Better Schools started out as a project that turned into a business because people started to ask for my help quite a bit.
That's right.
And I had the opportunity, I wonder if I could work with these amazing ruckus leaders, ruckus makers full time. And that's been true since 2017 when I moved from the United States over to Europe, lived there for about 4 or 5 years, and then moved back to the States. So in the beginning, I give that context because in the beginning stages of going out on your own, you're wondering if you could put food on the table, right?
Yeah.
And as a guy too, I want to provide for my family. So that was a real big challenge that I was facing. And so you're almost at a place where you'll accept anybody to work with, right? And I also share this story because there's leadership lessons here. Yeah. So I tried to do a variety of things that were outside of my zone of genius just to make money to put food on the table, right? Instead of just being confident in my superpowers and serving those who wanted that support and wanted to level up, as you said, and staying focused there. That's the path to success. So I learned that the hard way. And what Seth Godin taught me is that whatever you create, it's actually not for everyone, right? And you have to learn as a leader, whether that's in education or business or wherever, you have to learn this to understand, like, this might not be for you. So what I'm getting at is I actually am not that worried about reaching those that aren't ready.
Okay.
This is not for them yet. And so I am passionate about in my mission, I call it to connect, grow, and mentor every school leader who wants to level up.
Mm.
Between the US and Canada, I think it's something like 91,000, maybe even more principals and assistant principals.
Yeah.
There are plenty of leaders that want to level up in that vast ocean of leaders, right? And more than I can serve on my own, more than you can serve,
Absolutely.
needs to be a team effort to get to all those hungry folks. So essentially, I'm not worried about it. If they're not ready, that's cool. I'm going to find those that are and give them 100% of my attention. The second part of my answer to you is, though, there's this great, I think it might have been a TED Talk. I don't know. The video is old. It's by Derek Sivers, who is also somebody who really influences my thinking. And he started a company called CD Baby ages ago. I mean, you can hear it in the name, right? Like CD is one of those, right?
That's right.
Yeah. But he did this talk about being the first one to dance. And he shows this summer festival type thing. There's musicians, live performances. And there's this dude that gets out on a hill and starts dancing.
Yes.
And he's a terrible dancer. You've seen it before, right?
Yeah, I've seen that video, definitely.
Oh, yep. And the talk is called How to Start a Movement, right?
Yeah.
So he's not cared that anybody's dancing with him at first, right? It's not for them. But then eventually somebody thinks, right, oh, this is kind of cool. And they start dancing with them. And 2 become 3, 3 become 5, 5 become 10, and exponentially, becomes this movement. So by focusing on those that want to level up, I think we can inspire them by dancing, right? With the tension, with the challenge of growing yourself as a leader. And eventually more and more will come on. But I'm initially not focused on those folks at all. They're not worth my time.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is, right? So maybe it's a matter of being able to offer opportunities, growth opportunities to people, and whoever jumps in. It's a little bit, that's the approach that I ended up taking, in one of my former districts where we didn't have a ton, not a lot at all of leadership development, right? And that's okay, because it's I think it's a work in progress in school districts. It's coming. I think more and more we're realizing the importance of investing in our leaders. But maybe one of the things that we can do, to be able to give these people, these individuals opportunities, is to be able to provide opportunities, like, for example, the Mastermind. And we'll talk about the Mastermind in a little bit, which is, I think, one of the most powerful ways to be able to get people together and develop together as a community. So, and that's one of the things that I did, right, is on my own. I was a principal of a school of about 200 students, not a huge school, but 200 nonetheless, no VP. And I was hungry, right? I needed that professional development, and not just the ones that I can get online or in social media, but some in person with real people sitting together and discussing. So I went ahead and did form some mastermind groups with my principals, and just offered that kind of opportunity for anybody in the school district that wanted to sit down. So offering those opportunities, I think, is a way of opening the door, because some people might not be ready, and it might not be for them, but maybe it's because they haven't been looking.
Well, and if I was a district leader and not running my own organization, my answer would change subtly, in the sense that I would really leverage what I could in terms of empathy, right? And designing experiences where I could walk a mile in the leaders I supported shoes, right? Because right now, from what I understand, you're at the district level supporting principals. And so there's going to be those principals who might not be ready to level up, but your job is to support them and grow them. So in that sense, if I wasn't in that kind of setting, I would do my best to understand what makes them tick, what does drive them, what lights a fire under them, so to speak. What are the challenges as they perceive them, and that kind of thing? What goals and aspirations do they have professionally, but outside of school as well? And then I would do my best to connect the dots, right, with what I observed in them, and meet them where they are. So My answer changes subtly if I was working in a district or a school, because everybody won't be ready. But that's where I think understanding where people are coming from really matters, because that's the first step into building trust, building relationships.
That's right.
And the further along, you nurture that, then the more likely people will come along with you.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I've learned throughout the years is, when it comes to that, it takes a lot of patience, a lot of empathy, but a lot of patience, because I'm so excited about leadership development, and I understand the impact that it can have when you invest in yourself. And in my mind, we're like, how can you not want to do this? How can you not be ready to to embark on such a great journey that never has a finish line, but the journey is so fulfilling, and it's so impactful. And the feeling that I get, whenever I do have the opportunity to help somebody or to coach somebody, I want other people to be able to feel that as well, because it's such a fantastic feeling. And I tell myself, if I can only get you to taste it just a little bit, that's all it's going to take. And once you taste it, you're never going to want to let it go, and you're always going to want to, want more and more and more. So I guess it just takes a little bit more patience.
Yeah, patience is key.
Absolutely. So, we talked about providing opportunities now, and I'm sure you've come across, Danny, and worked with some people that, that just still, weren't getting it or weren't ready. And I certainly do work with fantastic school leaders. They're all there 110% for their students and for their staff. But often they forget about themselves, right? And we see that all the time, where leaders forget about themselves and they don't take care of themselves, and they're just not ready to dive in. So, when we're having conversations with our colleagues, be it principals that are talking with other principals that are friends, or within district school leader meetings, what are some of the things that we can say, or we can engage in saying with these people that maybe aren't ready, that can maybe give them that little nudge to say, you know what, maybe I do need to be intentional. I do need to start putting this down in my calendar and start really investing in myself and in my growth. So, what are the things we can say to these people to get them going on that journey?
I think one of the things that you could do is try to understand what they perceive as the challenges into developing themselves. And when I invite people to new leadership development opportunities I design, so whether that's the Mastermind, I have some called the Principal Success Path. That's a 5-week program.
Yeah. And
then I designed just now one called the Ruckus Maker Roadmap, that's completely asynchronous, and like 40 plus, videos that people could just take on their own. But as a principal or business leader, you're selling an idea, right? Or a program, this kind of thing. And so there are some very common objections within a district, right? Money is not going to be one, although I don't know, maybe it is if you charge for something, or there's the price of gas, and who knows.
Yeah.
But time will be one, right?
Absolutely.
So I would think about, what are some ways you can counter that objection in terms of time? One that I like to use, this all kind of hits somebody on their chin, but okay, you don't feel like you have time for this, right? Well, that's
the most common one I would say we hear, right? Is I don't have time.
Yeah. So let's take a look at your phone, right? And let's go to the settings, and let's look at, your daily usage on your phone.
Yeah.
Ooh, right. And how many hours we're on social media and email. And that's just a mirror. That phone is tracking your behavior.
Absolutely.
And if you took even just 10%, 20% of that time, now you have it to engage with me with this development stuff, right? So that would be interesting. Every time I would work with leaders too, ask, hey, do you work off of an ideal week, or tell me about how often you use your calendar and this kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And Jim Rohn, who's a motivational speaker, who gave, really encouraged me actually to join a mastermind, when he said, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Like, whoa, okay, what does that say about my life, right? He also said, basically that either you run the day or the day runs you. So I think folks that see time as a challenge are probably letting the day run them. So I would work with them on building an ideal week so that they're running the day instead. And I'd also challenge them to track their time. So Joel, every time I revise my ideal week, and I do this probably twice a year because, goals and projects change, right? And how I need to spend my time also changes. And the longest I've done 6 weeks of tracking all the daily activities I do Monday through Friday. And what that shows me is the big buckets, right, of what I'm choosing to do, even the distractions. You have to log that. And there's tools, I'm not going to recommend any, but there's tools that you can use, even free tools online that do this and categorize it for you. But you can do it just on your phone or a spreadsheet or on a notepad. The point is what I've learned. One, I've learned how I'm spending my time. Two, I've learned when I predict how long a project might take, I'm normally off by like 2 to 5 times the amount of time it'll take.
Yeah.
So therefore I'm trying to cram too much into a day, and then I'm not accomplishing everything I want. And the wheels come off. I feel frustrated. I feel like a loser because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just haven't had a realistic view of what I can accomplish.
Yeah.
So that I would go a little bit down that route. We only talked about time, but there's a million different objections. Another one that I think we should talk about is, will this work for me? Right.
That's right.
And so if I'm a district leader, I mean, as the chief ruckus maker at Better Leaders, Better Schools, I'm about to launch the 3rd cohort of our 5-week Principal Success Path program. So people are going to wonder, will it work for me? So I have case study after case study of leaders I've supported implementing ideas that I taught and the results that they've achieved, right? So like I can talk about that, or I could talk about how Dr. Chris Jones, became Principal of the Year in Massachusetts, right? Or how Becky in New Mexico, and I think she's in Albuquerque, her school is the 4th best place to work there, it's a big city. Like, what an honor, right?
Absolutely.
Now they have to implement stuff that I teach, right? But they are working with me and they're experiencing like great success. So you don't have to formally write down these case studies, although you could. But the point is, show that it works for people to sort of counter those objections. And you only know what they are by talking to folks, right? So hopefully that helps.
Well, absolutely. You know what? And I couldn't agree more. And often just walking the talk, right, is a good way to it works, and saying, listen, I'm not just, if I'm sitting down with a principal in a coaching session and I'm going to, suggest, I don't know, time blocking or, miracle morning or something like that. Well, it isn't, because it's usually not because I haven't tried it. It's because I'm doing it and I've seen results, right? So, and if I can do it, you can do it, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Yeah. So, and another area where I found that we're losing a lot of time is usually, either in the mornings or at night, but more in the mornings. And that's one of the big switches that I made a few years back. And I realized, that I wasn't really maximizing that time, let's say in the morning for myself, even when and this was when my 2 kids were much younger. Forget about doing it in the evening. You got the homework, you got, whatever else is going on. You're tired from your day. You've just come home, had big days at work, trying to get a workout in as well. So, just doing that type of exercise, the ideal week, and I've actually used that strategy, and that's thanks to you, Danny. So that made a big difference a few years back as well, where I actually took control of my time during the day and said exactly what you just said a little while ago. I'm going to be in control of the time and not time being in control of me. So that's when I switched everything, out to the mornings. And ever since I've put in that new routine where, I'm up very early in the morning, I get my workout in, and then I've got that period of time, 45 minutes to an hour to myself, to either do meditation, either, write some blog posts, edit some podcast, whatever it is, it's for my growth. And it's something that I enjoy doing, and it's my passion. So when speaking with a lot of school leaders or just leaders around, around my area, I find that that's one place where they don't really consider is saying, okay, I usually get up this routine where I get up at a certain time in the morning, but as soon as I do that, I'll make probably my first mistake of the day, which is grabbing my cell phone and checking stuff on the phone. And just to get them to think about, how can you reconfigure that time in the morning or in the evening? It depends on what's going on in your life. But for me, that was huge, right? And I was able to really make that time for myself without sacrificing time with my family. Because when I was doing this stuff, working out and working on my blog post or my website or what have you, they were still sleeping. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, right? 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Even just thinking about that, was a huge thing. And the last thing I think I'd say about that as well is that I found that was a big success. And people were able to really tap into that time is, to link, what you're doing. And I think you had mentioned, to ask yourself, is it going to work for me? What I like to do is I like to take that action and make sure that, it's related to my values. What do I value the most in life? If I value time with my family, then the activities that I'm going to decide to do and how I'm going to decide to do it, has to respect that value, because that's what I'm working towards, right? So just tapping into that way of seeing it, I found, was also another powerful way to reach school leaders that maybe just weren't there. They were maybe just right at the door and just needed somebody to turn that doorknob and just open and leave a little crack for them to come in.
That's perfect. I love that, attaching it to your values, right? That's a powerful motivator that'll pull you through the times that you don't want to do stuff.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll add to our discussion as well is probably do an inventory in terms of, and this would come out of the time tracking, but do an inventory of what you do throughout the day, because I think a lot of leaders get stuck treating all tasks as equal.
Yes.
When some are going to create, great value for their school organization, and some really are pretty much like just a checkbox or even a waste of time. Yet we give it great effort and focus. And so if you could shrink that, right, to allow and maximize time for what's going to create the most value, you're gonna do a lot better as a leader, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Not every task has the same importance or has the same level of importance. And
right.
Just thinking back now in some of the conversations I've had just in this past week with some leaders, you're absolutely right. A lot of them do see every task like just a box to check. Yeah. And maybe just looking at it a different way is just another means to be able to realize the importance of taking a look at what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, why I'm doing it, and how much time am I really putting into it. And comes in, and then there comes in the tracking, checking how I'm spending my time, how many minutes do I spend on my phone, how many times do I check Facebook and Instagram and whatnot during the day, and how important is that to what I'm striving towards, my goals, my objectives, my values. And maybe that's some of the time that I can go and recuperate, put the phone down, and be doing something else.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. Well, this is great, Danny. And, at the beginning of our conversation, I mentioned the Mastermind, which is a very powerful tool, for professional development, for building communities. And of course, I couldn't go without mentioning your book. I thought it was great. I really, really appreciated your second book, or your third book, I think, Danny, which is Mastermind.
Yeah.
I'll definitely put a link in the show notes for that. But, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about your book. Why is it that you wrote it, and a little bit what's in it. But, even before you get started, Danny, I wanted to thank you, because I was able to, take that book that you wrote and to really analyze the way that I was, doing the masterminds. And you've brought a lot of ideas, to the table with this book. So I really appreciate it. I was able to level up my masterminds, thanks to that. So I really appreciate it. And, tell us about the book, what it is, and, what was your intention in writing that?
So one of the lessons that I hope a listener gets is, Corwin came to me actually to publish the book. I didn't pitch them at all. And I share that because when you are aligned with your values and you have a, mission and vision big enough, that inspires and drives you every single day. And then you consistently, what Jim Collins would call a 20-mile march, but you're consistently, creating value for others, right?
Yeah.
People will notice.
Hmm.
And so that year, it was 2019, Corwin and all the places that publish books that you know have name recognition wanted to do a book. But Corwin was different, and they said, let's do a book on how you support school leaders, right? Everybody else wanted me to pitch an idea, although
Yep.
they came to me, but they said, like, this is the idea we want. I thought, oh my gosh. One, why did I never think of that? Because that's literally how I spend 95% of my day.
That's right. That's
And
right.
yeah, and then two, how can I tell our community's story in a way that creates value, that serves, and it doesn't seem like a 200-page sales letter?
Yeah.
And I think I pulled that off, right?
You did.
It took a while to figure that out, but you know, the second lesson I want to teach through this story is after the first draft, maybe I hadn't pulled it off yet, and my editor gave me some really critical feedback, and like, you know, kind of, we're working with you on this project, but this is not it yet, right? Like, this first draft is lousy, it stinks, it's terrible. So I thought, oh my God, all right, what am I gonna do? I put in so much work, there's probably stuff here I can use, but how do I create a book that I'm super proud of? And so I tell this part of the story, Joel, because as leaders, we often think by putting in more hours and working harder, you know, almost like just like gripping with our knuckles white, that's going to be the path forward. And actually, to create a better book, I stopped writing the book. I started getting out into nature more and going on for walks, just letting my mind wander. And before too long, I'm like, okay, a lot of great books that I love, they have a framework. So you haven't identified this far into your professional journey, what's actually the framework for why the mastermind works? So I started thinking about that. I thought about our industry. Obviously, it's education. So I started playing around with the idea of ABCs because I thought it would resonate, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, can I make it work? And a few drafts into that, I'm like, okay, the mastermind is built on authenticity, belonging, and challenge, right? And that became the framework, right? So the first chapter is why there's challenges and what's broken in current PD models. Then the next few chapters are the ABCs, and then there's a summary, right? A conclusion. And that pulled it off so that it doesn't feel like a sales letter, because now I've taught you why the mastermind works. And so you who have masterminds, you know, you could hopefully make them better, which you said did happen. For a school leader, you can now integrate this framework, even if you don't run masterminds, but you can integrate this framework into your school community to level up all the PD that you offer. Even a teacher who built his or her classroom on authenticity, belonging, and challenge, they're going to have a much better time with the students, I believe. And so, yeah, the book dives deeply into that concept, that framework, and also tells our community's story. And there's one call to action at the end, like literally the last line. And if you'd like to learn more, like, here's how to reach out, type of thing. And so I felt really good about creating that story of our community and providing, you know, the framework that people could think through.
And you know what, you hit it 100%. That's actually that's the feeling that I got from the book, because you know, when you first put it out on social media, and you know, I think you had a group on Facebook for that one as well, like before it was published. And you were looking at different cover images, and I was wondering, you know, how it was going to come out. But after I read it, I was, you know, it was it really wasn't, like you said, like a sales pitch at all. It was really, and what I think what I appreciated the most about it, I appreciated a lot of parts about it, but one of the things that stood out for me, and you mentioned it, is when you said, you know, take the model and go and do it, because it works, and you've got the data to back it. You've got the experience to back it. So I thought that was really powerful. So to me, when I did read this book, it was like, it was a gift. It was like you were saying, you know, this is how I did it, and this is the success we had. And I'm an alumni of the Mastermind. I was part of the guiding principles. So I lived it, and it was, and I'm convinced, and the reason why I wanted to get on board with, you know, the Mastermind at Better Leaders, Better Schools is I wanted to be, because I wanted to do it. First of all, I wanted I was intrigued and thought that it was a great way to help people level up. So I said, I want to live it as a participant and see, what feelings do I get out of it? What can I get out of it? How can I grow? And it was just a great experience. So that propelled me to start the masterminds. And then this book came along a few years later. And it was a gift because you're just sharing with everybody, this is how I went about it. These are the main parts of what's most important and what I'm doing and the reason why I'm doing it. Now take this and go out and do it, So for that, I thank you, 1,000 times over. I think it's a fantastic gift to any leader that is looking to maybe to have a system, to have a way of coming in and getting people together and, really taking care of each other, in ways professionally, of course, and in ways of our mental health as well, and to make sure that everybody is healthy in that community. So yeah, I thought the book was fantastic, and I really, really enjoyed the footnotes. I had to tell you that.
Cool. All right.
Oh no, great. that was, I gotta say, I've read a lot of books and I can't think of any other book that had that kind of footnotes. I seen the footnotes when I started reading, but then when I realized what you had done there with the footnotes, I thought it was great. The little anecdotes, the little challenges, and the gifts. If you're the first 11 people,
get a pizza.
Oh, it was the pizza. I thought that was fantastic. I don't know, how'd you come up with that idea? How'd you think of that?
All right. So how did I think of that? I was reading another book. The title is escaping me at the moment. It has a really crazy title. It's from an Ogilvy advertiser. So it's from an ad man, a marketer. And it's something about the dark arts and curious science. It has a very British sounding name, and it's really about telling stories and how to do uncommon, ruckus making type stuff to serve, right? And to tell your story and to invite people to your programs and this kind of stuff. And I so enjoyed how he packaged the book. I said, oh, I like that idea. I'm going to put my own, stamp on it and try it out. Now, the other fun thing is with the book, the cover, I don't know, when you think of education books and their covers, I would assert that most of them are pretty boring and very forgettable, almost invisible. I think the publishing companies do that in some respects because if it's not too edgy, they won't get in trouble, right?
Okay.
But the interesting thing, in my book, I really pushed hard for design. There's lessons in all the stories I teach, and the lesson is that, I told the designer for the cover, I said, here's the constraints. This is the experience I want somebody to feel looking at the book. And I want you to design the best cover that you're the most proud of ever creating, right? And I had my editor share that with the design team. My editor said, my design team was blown away. They've never been asked to create a masterpiece that they're proud of, right? And not micromanaged, right? Just given the canvas and here's what I think I'd like people to experience. Now you do it, right? Leverage your superpowers. And as a result, wow, I think it's a pretty cool cover, right? So then with the footnotes, Corwin never does footnotes, ever, never, ever. But listen, I'm the chief ruckus maker.
That's right. That's right.
And so I just kept pushing. And the lesson here is the answer is always no unless you ask. That's right. I said, believe me, it's gonna work, right? Here's why, it's gonna add stories, add value, right? And for the readers, it's gonna be entertaining. And therefore they'll tell people on this podcast or tell their friends, and more books will spread. And we're about spreading the ideas. We're doing footnotes, okay? And it happened. And so it's when you have a big enough vision, right? And you can communicate it to those you work with, it's amazing what doors will open. And back to, thank you for all the very kind and generous words, about the book. But when I read Simon Sinek's Infinite Game, that's where he introduces this idea of a just cause. It's not really mission, it's not really vision, it's this purpose. and I already shared on this podcast, mine is to connect, grow, mentor every school leader who wants to level up. The thing with a just cause is that it's not about competition. You don't have to lose, Joel, in the mastermind game, so to speak, for me to win.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to connect, grow, and mentor every school leader who levels up, right? I already mentioned this. That's more than 2 guys can handle. We need more people doing this work.
Absolutely.
And so the book was supposed to be a gift, because if I'm truly going to accomplish or move forward or have the impact that I want, right? Connecting, growing, mentoring school leaders, I actually have to reveal the secrets of why it works, right? And that's the joke. That's the point. I'm putting it out there because I want other people to do this, because our motto at Better Leaders, Better Schools, our why, everybody wins when you get better, right? So if leaders are being truly served, and I don't know if you caught this, but the National Superintendents Association, right, in the US, they co-published the book. Right. Why? Because masterminds are changing the landscape of PD for school leaders. Together, we can change education around the world. Now that's exciting.
Absolutely. And I feel that excitement. I live that excitement. And, everybody that's listening today, get out and get your copy of the book, Mastermind. It's available everywhere. You can go on Amazon. It's available there. On Corwin, it's available there as well. And there will be a link in the footnotes for that. So it's had a big impact on myself. And again, I really enjoyed so it worked because the footnotes, I really like that. That was really enjoyable. So, and so I thought it was great. So get out there, because I think as leaders, anyways, for myself, and speaking for myself, one of the most important things that I can do as a leader is to multiply, right? Is to create other leaders, exactly. So that, like you were saying, so that influence can just keep growing. And that's why I'm here every single day. Everything that I do, everything that I work for, be it, people that I work with, be it people that are in my life, my family, my kids. The objective is to be able to add value and to be able to multiply that leadership so that they can go out and return and multiply. And I know, Danny, that's some of the great work that you do with Better Leaders, Better Schools. And I think it's awesome. Everything that you do. I love following you on social media, and I love participating when I can to whatever you're doing. I think it just helps us all to level up, and that's what it does, right? Is you're multiplying leadership.
Thank you.
And I think it's great.
That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So listen, Danny, we talked about leveling up today, and it's been a great conversation. Again, you're adding value to myself today. I really appreciate you, and to everybody that's going to be listening. So if you were to leave today with, for everybody that's listening, what would be one wish in terms of leveling up? What would be one wish that you would have for everybody that's listening to us today?
Choose yourself. It's really easy, right? Don't wait for anybody else to pick you. You got to pick yourself first.
Love it. Pick yourself. And, when it comes down to it, if you don't have anything to give, then, how are we going to be able to add value and multiply, right? So we got to fill our cup first to make sure that we've got something to give to other people. So I think that's great. Absolutely. All right, Danny, listen, thank you very much. And good luck with your 5-day challenge, the boot camp. So that's starting today, right? And
that's correct.
I think it's going to be very exciting and good things to come. So, everybody that's listening, make sure that you connect with Danny at Better Leaders, Better Schools. Website, Twitter. I think you're just about everywhere, Danny. And I'd say another thing I have to say that I really appreciate about you, Danny, is that, you're very approachable, very reachable. Every single time that I've reached out to you, you've always answered. And that I really appreciate, because I really feel like you've got my back as a leader. And I wanted to make sure that you know that. So if anybody wants to reach out to you, I'm sure it'll be the same thing. Connect and let's grow as leaders, and let's get out there and multiply, right?
That's right. Go make a ruckus.
All right. Thanks a lot, Danny. Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thanks, Joel.